Hello, Atheist Gaming back again, this time with my Intro to Alchemy guide, Specializations and Consumables. We're going to be covering the 3 alchemy specializations, what you can make with them, what you'll be using them for, and my general opinion on the profession. So let's get started. So, there are 3 specializations of alchemy: elixirs, which includes flasks, potions, and transmutes. In order to acquire a specialization, you have to be level 68 and have 325 skill. The basic bonus of it is that you have a 10 to 25% chance to get 1 to 4 more of an item when you craft. This works out to about 1 free item for every 4 crafted on average, or a 20-25% boost. This means that when you are crafting within your specialization, it is more profitable for you. Each one will require a quest that requires both materials and instance drops, besides one, but we'll cover that. The quests for each specialization: for elixirs, you have to bring the listed items here, along with 10 essences of infinity, which drop from the dragons in Black Morass. For potions, it's the potions listed here with the material costs. And then the botanist field guide, which is dropped by a boss in Botanica. Lastly, the one without an instance tie-in is Transmutation, where you must bring 4 primal mites. Primal mite has a cooldown. It's limited from vendors. You can find information on where those vendors are located, but just know this might be pretty rare to get your hands on early on. So elixirs, there's some big changes to elixirs in TBC, and that's the battle guardian system. You can only have 1 battle and 1 guardian elixir. Flasks both persist through death and count as each a battle and guardian elixir. On the right, you can see some examples of a battle, a guardian, and a flask. So, what do physical DPS want for their elixirs? Well, for their battle elixirs, they're going to want either Elixir of Major Agility if they're an agility scaling class, Fell Strength Elixir if they're an attack power scaling class that doesn't use agility as well, or Elixir of Demon Slaying. I'm sure you've heard about this. It's a bit odd compared to the other ones. You see the other ones last an hour, this one lasts 5 minutes, but it's the most AP you can get against a demon target only. So, to really min-max your elixirs, you would be popping elixirs of demon slaying on demon targets and then going back to one of the other battle elixirs on other targets. For guardian, there's not much that increases your damage, but you have either elixir of Dranic Wisdom if you are a mana user, or Major Mage Blood if you are a mana user. The longer the fight goes, I believe it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds, is where Elixir of Major Mage Blood will end up giving you more mana over the course of it. So that's a call on you whether you want, if it's a short boss fight, Dranic Wisdom is better. If it's a long instance, then Major Mage Blood would be better. Elixir of Major Fortitude, however, is a durability option. 250 HP isn't that much, but it can keep you alive. 10 health per 5 seconds. Once again, it'll add up. Most of the time it won't be a usable benefit, but it's one of the better guardian elixirs you can get as a DPS, especially a melee DPS where you're likely to take a lot of damage from mechanics. And lastly, we have the physical DPS flask, which is Flask of Relentless Assault. Now you may notice that this gives 120 AP. So this leads to some tough choices for physical DPS, where this is, less than half as good against demons as Elixir of Demon Slaying, but you can't have both. So the general opinion is that people will go a battle guardian rather than a flask. Now, you can use a flask if you prefer, but usually a physical DPS will go battle guardian and swap their battle elixirs depending on the fight. Now, caster DPS. A bit more straightforward, I would say, and a lot more usability out of your flasks. So you can see on the left I have the materials that it takes to craft each of these, and on the right I just want to talk a little bit. Elixir of Major Shadow Power is your Warlocks, Shadow Priests. Dranic Wisdom and Major Mage Blood, same things as before. though you do get a little bit of spell crit, and if you have scaling with spirit in your kit, such as being able to regenerate mana based off spirit or gain some other benefit, then you may prefer Drainic Wisdom over Major Mage Blood. Firepower is, of course, Fire Mages. And then Flask of Pure Death and Flask of Blinding Light. Now you notice that these each have 3 spell schools that are associated with them and are better than just the Elixir version. So Shadow, Fire, Frost, and Arcane Holy Nature. Now, there is a bit of a difference here where there's Flask of Supreme Power is nerfed, but still in the game. It's 10 less spell power than Flask of Pure Death and Flask of Blinding Light, but it's for everything. So, potentially, if you are, say, a Elemental Shaman who is going to be using Frost Shock and Flame Shock, then potentially Flask of Supreme Power might be better for you. Or if you are a Arcane Mage that's planning on using a lot of fire spells for AoE, or frost spells for AoE, maybe Supreme Power would be better for you. So there's a little bit of a choice here. You can either go for the Elixir for your one single spell damage type, plus a little bit more sustain from your Guardian, or you can pick which flask matches your damage profile the best. So healers and tanks. I'm combining these because there's a lot of overlap with the DPS Elixirs, but for tanks and healers, you can see the materials on the left. And the potions I want to talk about here are going to be Elixir Major Defense, 550 armor. It's better than the classic version. And then the flasks. So Flask of the Titans from classic is nerfed heavily, and Flask of Fortification takes over from it. It's 500 health and 10 defense rating. It's kind of, you'll have to potentially have a different gear set, because if you're just trying to just meet the defense cap, then this will change your gearing for when you have Flask active versus when you don't have Flask active. Something that gets a lot better specifically on tanks and healers is Elixir of Mastery. Now there are better offensive elixirs for DPS and casters, but because this gives you 15 to all stats, so it's giving you mana, it's giving you stamina, it's giving you agility for dodge, strength for AP for all the tanks, this is a lot more attractive for your tank or healer that wants to be, have more mana, have more HP, etc. Flask of Mighty Restoration, I am not sure how often this gets used. 25 MP5 for 2 hours is really good, but it's only 9 more than the Elixir, and you also get to have 15 to all of your stats for that time. So this will probably be a preference-based thing. Do you prefer not having to refresh them after you die? Are you wiping a lot? That could sway you one way or the other. Next up, transmutations. So transmutations are, much like the classic version, you transmute from one primal to another primal. You also can transmute meta gems. So you take a collection of green gems and you transmute them into a meta. These all have a 20-hour CD, 20 to 24 hour. The information I have on this is not very conclusive. I could not find confirmation about whether the primals shared or had separate CDs. I know that people will say that transmuting metagems will put all of your transmutes on a 20-hour cooldown, but I'm not sure if that's true for your, say, your life to earth transmute, for example. This can be a really good moneymaker, though, because not only can you generate additional ones with your specialization, but if there is a really common primal like Shadow, you can turn it into water, or vice versa, into something less common and make money off of that cooldown. Next up is potions, and actually potions see probably the second largest change because they're a much larger part of your DPS with a lot more offensive options. So I'm sure you're used to tanks using potions, so they use their Stone Shield potions. But otherwise, most potions that get used are going to be mana potions. This is going to be your best DPS potion. It's just mana. This changes in TBC, though. We get access to the Haste potion, the Destruction potion. Both of these are a physical and a caster, though casters can also use the haste potion. Big buff to your damage here. You also get insane strength, which is 120 strength for 15 seconds. So these can be stacked with your other cooldowns to give you that additional boost of damage if you don't need the super mana potion. A small note is that Lip does not function in TBC. It does not have the same effect. It does not make you immune to damage. It just reduces damage by 35 a hit. So say goodbye to Lip. It will not exist in TBC. Free action potions do still exist and are still useful, but I didn't include them since you should already be familiar with them. These are basically the new ones. Something interesting though is that the major protection potions, I have Arcane and Fire here as examples, but all the potions follow this convention, is they all cost a primal to make and 5 vials, and you get 5 of them for 1 primal. So might be expensive because I expect primals to be fairly expensive, but you do get a better return on a single primal than you do with an essence in Classic. So in conclusion, alchemy is a very potent profession, with each specialization having the ability to turn a profit on their crafts, especially because if you get lucky, you can potentially roll a lot more than the mats you put in. Potions, elixirs, flasks, and primals will be desired for the entire lifespan of the game. However, one issue is that it doesn't really offer you any personal power in combat. There's one item that you can get, which is the Alchemist Stone, and if you look on the right, you can see the early Alchemist Stone trinket. The equip effect is pretty good, but the stats are not really good for anyone. Maybe a feral druid would use those stats, but for most classes, they're not interested in a trinket that just has 15 of each stat. Not really as good for them. However, in Sunwell Plateau, there's the next tier of Alchemist Stones, and there's one for tanks, physical DPS, caster DPS, and healers. Generally speaking, the consensus is that the healer stone is the best because they're the most likely to be chugging mana potions rather than a DPS potion. In this case, it becomes a very potent combat personal power boost because you are able to get significantly more mana back per potion CD, and that can keep you sustained through fights longer, in addition to not losing out on the effect, which now you're getting 119 healing power rather than 15 stam and 15 spirit. It's just way better. So while this may be an alt or your secondary profession early on, it's something that more classes will be looking at picking up in Sunwell Plateau. So that concludes my TBC Alchemy TLDR intro guide. If you are interested in learning more, I recommend going on to the TBC Wowhead, and you can search for potions, elixirs, flasks, look at the various mats that are required, take a look at the full list of potions to see any old world stuff that would be included. If you have any questions, comments, things to add, things that I should change, leave a comment below. I try and respond to all of them, and thank you for watching. Bye.